Yes, I'd upgraded my model of what it meant to be successful, yet I hadn't done the inner work by that point to really understand myself. And I think for me, that was one of the major reasons why no matter what I achieved or whatever successes I had, they just never landed. And as a result, I felt empty.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host with the mostest, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. What's going down, brother?
That was a very different one.
I wanted to see if I could throw you off your game. What's going down, brother?
Doing great. You know, we like to record these episodes back to back, don't we? And the conversations are just always so phenomenal.
I agree. We have, guys, I always say this, but I wish you could be here for the off-recording conversations because they get juicy and they're things that, that we try to bring online, but it's everybody's at a different level for what they're willing to receive at the moment on their journey. And Tim, just, the things that you're willing to share and that you and I talk about, just phenomenal.
I love it. So what I want to bring to the table in this conversation, Doug, is why, I'll frame it in the present tense, why you feel empty. So why do you feel empty? Now, I imagine you've had moments in your life that you, regardless of the people that are around you, how much love you're surrounded by, how many achievements you've had, how many degrees you may have, or how much money you've made, you still just feel empty. I know it's true for a lot of the men we work with. I mean, one of the biggest complaints that the men have is that, to everybody else, they look like they've got the ideal life, the home, the holidays, the cars, the business, the money. But for some reason, it just doesn't land for them. They just feel empty on the inside. They feel numb. And I'm curious, what are the times in your life when you felt like that?
Good question. So, empty. I got to say there's been a number of times when I guess, I don't know about empty, I would say, but that I knew there was more, right? I knew that I didn't feel complete because I knew that there was just a disconnect from what I was doing and the state that I was living in from my true potential. And often for me, what it's been is really following somebody else's guidance on the way I should be living my life. Now, that could be society, right? It could be a mentor, a parent, a friend, giving me advice, probably on their best terms, and me feeling that I should be following it, but not really following my own true north, right? My own true guidance of what I know to be true. And that's at times has left me feeling, I guess, empty or not filled up in the past, Tim. And I know as a father, right, a common thing that we hear from men is you almost feel like you're not doing a good job. You have this ideal of what it means to be a dad or what it means to be a husband or what it means to be a successful business owner. And when you're not reaching that ideal, you're not actualizing it, you create a gap between where you are today and where you believe you should be. And I use that word should on purpose. And what that does is creates a distance, a disconnect, which then creates a gap of feeling empty and feeling incomplete.
I think you hit the nail on the head there when, you fall into the trap of living by somebody else's definition of what it means to be successful. And, a common pattern of the men that we work with is they've thrust themselves into business. And usually they've kind of done it by default, out of the need to make money because they've believed that money is going to be the answer. When I have money, that's when I'll be good enough. When I have money, that's when I'll have power. When I have money, that's when I'll look a certain way and I will get the attention and significance and be the man that I think I should be. And as a result, they thrust themselves into business and they make money. However, what they end up doing then is almost having this bottomless pit that they experience within themselves. And no matter how much money they make, it just doesn't land for them. And then what happens is they start to enter into this cycle of shame, sabotage, and sedation, where first of all, they then feel ashamed because everyone around them is telling them how great they are and how great their life is and that they should be enjoying it. But for some reason, some way, somehow, it's just not landing for them. They look in the mirror and they don't see what everybody else sees. And that makes them feel even worse. And it means that they end up feeling quite alone as well because they have no one around them that they can come clean to and share how they're really feeling. So what they then do is enter the phase 2 of the cycle, which is sedate. And they then often turn to alcohol, drugs sometimes, porn, social media, TV, food, whatever it is, in order to switch their mind off, sometimes caffeine as well, but in order to switch their mind off and quieten that voice that's inside of themselves, that's nagging at them, that's scratching away in the background, and try to get some form of peace, some form of inner peace. But it never works. It's very short-lived, which then what happens in that instance is then they start to sabotage themselves, because by this point, they've really started to grow to resent their business. Sometimes even resent their partner, don't they? Because they start to tell stories like it's everybody else's fault. It's the staff's, it's the business, it's the wife's, it's the kids, it's whoever's fault. And as a result, they start to sabotage things. They either sabotage their relationship and start looking at other women, or sabotage their business and stop doing the actions that help the business to grow. Take their eye off the ball, start rolling into the office later in the day, not leading the team in the way they know they could. Or they stop working out and start sabotaging their health. And as a result, they then get more shame, more sedation, more sabotage. And it's this endless spiral that they can often get stuck in. And I know for me, looking back, the periods in my life when I really felt empty, I think it definitely had something to do with me living by everybody else's ideals of what it meant to be a man and what it meant to be successful. I can remember this one time I was in a charity auction down in London, and it was being held by a billionaire. And I'd got to that point because I'd been in business with somebody who was very wealthy. He had hundreds of millions of pounds. And he partnered up with me in another business. And he, I did quite well with him. And he then brought me in on different business negotiations and different discussions and so on. And it culminated in being at this charity ball. I think the tables there were about £10,000 and things were getting auctioned off for crazy amounts of money. And I become quite close to the woman who I was sat beside, and she was the old MD of TK Maxx. I don't know if you have TK Maxx in the US, but it's kind of like a mid-level department store, very well known in the UK and also in Europe too. Anyway, this woman used to be the MD of it, and she was at the table with her husband, which I found very humbling and also quite strange, because this was a room full of very well-to-do multi-millionaires and billionaires, and here's her and her husband, who her husband was a tradesman. Nothing against tradesmen, but he was a very down-to-earth guy. If you would have looked around the room, he probably would have stuck out a little bit. But anyway, around our table, everyone kept getting up and going to the toilet at different times, and it always would leave me and this woman and her husband. And she turned to me and she said, "Tim, make sure you never end up in this room."
Whoa.
And I was only about 26 years old then, 27 years old. And I didn't really, I was like, what does she mean? Like, make sure I never end up in this room? Like, what does that mean? And
guys, I'm interrupting this episode because I want to know, do you feel bored, burnt out, or broken? Discover the system that over 300 businessmen are using to let go of the grind, find inner peace, and unlock unlimited personal power so they can have more time, more intimacy, and better sex while living a life they love without stressing about work or feeling like a fraud. Head over to thepowerfulman.com/11 to see what this is all about. All right, let's get back to the episode.
As I was looking around the room, it was just so false. It was, sure, there were like celebrities there and people that you saw on TV and, people that were even on Dragon's Den, which was the UK equivalent to Shark Tank. And these were the people that in the media it was portrayed that you'd look up to, and this was the image of success. Yet, being in the room with them, there was so much facade, and these people at a table that kept getting up and going to the toilet, they'd come back and they'd have white rings around the nostrils, which I assume was drugs, cocaine. Don't know if it was or not, but that's my guess. Yeah. And as I sat there thinking, make sure you never end up in this room, it really got me understanding that, wow, you taught to buy into a certain model of success, of what it means to be successful, chasing the money. And all of the people there, from my knowledge, the ones I'd engaged with, all had a string of failed relationships. All were very distant and disconnected from the loved ones in their lives, from, like I say, the conversations I'd had with them. And it was similar to you, Doug. It wasn't a definition of success that was working for me. It really wasn't. It was turning me off instead of turning me on. And what she shared with me has stuck with me ever since. And going back to, why we often feel empty, first of all, it was the model of success and what definitions we're buying into, the role models around us as well, of course. But then even when I changed that, one of the things that, caused a struggle for me was that even though I was then achieving great things in my life, they just weren't landing. For whatever reason, I'd always find a way to identify and pick out the things that I could have done better versus the things I did well and the ways in which I'd achieved. And for a long time, I felt like a fraud. It was almost like I was living with this burden and worry that I was just waiting for the rug to be pulled from beneath me.
Did you feel like a fraud, or was it more like imposter syndrome?
I didn't feel as good as everyone thought I was.
Yeah.
So whatever that is.
I would call that imposter syndrome. I think fraud's got a negative connotation to it, where imposter syndrome is more of an internal dialogue you're having.
Yeah.
Where you don't feel good enough, right? You're like, oh, shit. Oh crap, are they going to find out that I'm not as smart as they think I am? Or,
Exactly. And I was just waiting for the rug to be pulled beneath me. And by that point, I'd upgraded my model of what it meant to be successful. Yet I hadn't done the inner work by that point to really understand myself. And I think, that for me, that was one of the major reasons why no matter what I achieved or whatever successes I had, they just never landed. And as a result, I felt empty. I felt numb. Regardless of the amount of love I was surrounded by, regardless of the amount of money I had in the bank, regardless of the amount of freedom I had in my life, the health, the energy, all of it, it just didn't land.
Well, I mean, this is the exact reason that people get coaches, Tim. I mean, when you think about it, whether it's Jack Welch, the famous CEO for General Electric, it's been written about 1 million times. They all have coaches. They all have someone in their corner to help them see the forest from the trees and find their own blind spots. And all of us, every man listening to this, myself included, has gone through that imposter syndrome feeling. We've all felt like, oh crap, when are they going to find out? When is the other shoe going to drop? I'm not as smart. I'm not as funny, good looking, whatever it may be. It's usually I'm not as smart, or I don't have, or I'm not as good of a guy as people think I am, right? Or my intentions, or whatever it may be, the story that we've created. And the truth that you know and I know is everybody can see through your BS. Most good, smart people. when you and I go to an alpha reset or any function where we're either coaching people or not, if you and I are just attendees, we've done this enough times and have enough reps that people accuse us of just being able to see through them. And the truth is we can. It's not that hard when you've done it as much as you and I've done it, is you can see the true person, their true nature. And so guys, you're not really hiding from anybody but yourselves. And that's where you look at this lack of fulfillment, this feeling empty and this feeling desire is really something that's internal. And when are we going to make another $1 million and that's when you're going to feel good? Or you're going to get another degree and that's when you're going to feel good? Or buy another house or a new car and that's when you're going to feel good? That's not the way it works. It's not the formula. You've got it backwards. You're trying to do a 2 + 2 = 8. It doesn't work that way. And so you need to change your math, or as you say in the UK, maths. You need to change that formula because really it's the inner game. It's the inner work that you need to work on and get expressed within yourself so you can take that and carry it anywhere, in any economy, in any situation, in any engagement that you have, that feeling of being whole, complete, and keep doing the reps so you can continue reinforcing that and stacking the evidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally true. So what exercises do you know that you could walk us through right now to, if there's a guy listening to this who's resonating with this and he's feeling empty and unfulfilled despite achieving all the things he thought was going to make him happy, is there an exercise that you would get him to do right now that would help him to fill that void?
Oh, wow, that's a big question to answer. The first thing I would get him to do is to write down, who he is, right? And we do this. Part of the activation method is determining who your shadow stick man is. And so I would take him through the shadow stick man method exercise, which is too long to do in a short podcast episode, but really getting real with what's going on and what's really happening for him. What has he been chasing, right? And so you listening to this, what is it you're chasing and what's that void you're trying to fill? And being real with yourself. Here's a hint. The first 4 answers aren't going to be the truth. It's usually the 5th or the 10th answer that's the true one of what you're trying to do. And the answer all comes down to being loved, by the way. It always ends up there. Never, ever in my entire life have I seen it land anywhere else but being loved and accepted, right? And being accepted is really just about being loved at the end of the day. So with this void you're feeling, this unfulfillment, when's the last time you were truly proud of yourself? You truly, not a fleeting moment, but truly proud of who you are as a man, truly happy with who you are as a man. Now, if that moment hasn't happened recently, it's time for a change, brother. It is time for a change. Get your ass to an activation method. Get yourself on a phone call with Tim or one of the coaches and just have a conversation, right, about it. We specialize in working with business owners. So if you're not a business owner, there's other avenues that are out there for you. But get yourself out there. Get yourself out of your own way and start getting some absolute clarity in your life. What it is, where you are today, and where you want to be. And most of us never take the time to ask those questions and get that honest clarity, right? And really figure out where we are. So, I can't really answer that question, Tim, in the span of the time that we have here. But guys, start with this. Ask yourself this question. When was the last time I was truly proud of myself, truly happy with myself for an extended period of time? 2, where am I today versus where I want to be? And 3, what am I chasing? What am I chasing right now? And what is that costing me? What is that costing me to chase? To find something, because then I'll be happy. Once I get this, then the new car, right? The $100,000 vehicle, then I'll be happy. Or the new degree, because then I'll be happy. There's opportunity cost and real capital costs, as well as expenses, in your time and energy with all of these things. why not choose something that pays dividends to your life and to your future? That's what I would encourage you gentlemen to do.
Wow. So true. When was the last time you were truly proud of the man you are? Wow. What a great question.
Well, Tim, that's all we have for today. And so, guys, I would love to hear what you got out of this episode personally, and I'm sure Tim would as well. Please go over to the Facebook group, The Activation Method. It is a private community for men just like you. The coaches are in there. I'm in there. Tim is in there, having conversations with men. And I would love for you listening to this, to share your story in there. And let's connect. And I'd love to have that conversation with you. So until then, this is another episode. It's a wrap, Tim, and we will see you guys next time.